Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. Did you know that over 85% of what people fear never actually happens? Well, don't let that statistic fool you into thinking Sigma females are fearless. Beneath their cool, unbothered exterior lies a labyrinth of hidden fears they'd never admit to, not even under oath. They're the queens of calculated independence, but even the most self-sufficient minds can't completely silence their inner anxieties. And here's the kicker. Their fears aren't your run-of-the-mill phobias like spiders or public speaking. No, we're talking about existential level stuff, things that gnaw at their sense of self, control, and freedom. If fear of blending in or being emotionally tethered were an Olympic sport, they'd win gold every time. So buckle up, because we're peeling back the layers of the enigmatic Sigma female. What keeps her awake at night? What thoughts send a chill down her spine? Spoiler alert, it's not what you think, and it's definitely not ordinary. Let's dive into the hidden fears of the one woman who'd never ever let you know she's afraid of anything. Number 1. Being truly misunderstood. Being truly understood sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Not for a Sigma female. For her, it's more like a high-stakes game of emotional poker where someone might finally see the hand she's been carefully hiding. On the surface, she's all calm and composed, giving off the vibe of someone who's got everything figured out. But deep down, the idea of someone cracking her emotional code is terrifying. Not because she's hiding some dark secret, but because her inner world is her sanctuary, untouched, unjudged, and fully hers. If someone gets too close and sees all the layers, the vulnerable parts, the doubts, the moments of weakness, it feels like being exposed without armor. And Sigma females, they don't do exposed. Vulnerability, while human, feels like walking barefoot on glass. It's not that they're heartless or incapable of connection, it's just that they prefer to control how much of themselves they let others see. Letting someone in completely means giving up that control, and for a Sigma, that's like handing over the keys to the fortress. Here's the ironic twist. Deep down, they crave understanding, but on their terms, in their time, and maybe after an intense background check. The thought of someone seeing every nuance of their personality, every hidden fear, and still saying, "I get you," is equal parts comforting and terrifying. It's like wanting a warm hug, but worrying it'll crush your ribs. So they keep most people at a safe distance, not because they don't care, but because they care too much about maintaining their independence. The fear of being truly understood isn't about rejecting connection. It's about protecting the rare, sacred parts of themselves they've spent a lifetime building. Number 2, falling into mediocrity. For a Sigma female, mediocrity isn't just a fear. It's a personal insult to her existence. The idea of living a life so predictable, so painfully ordinary makes her skin crawl. She's wired to aim higher, think deeper, and walk a path most wouldn't dare to tread. Settling into the bland comforts of routine? That's not just unappealing. It's her version of a horror movie. What makes this fear so potent is how sneaky mediocrity can be. It doesn't kick down the door, it slips in quietly, disguised as stability or being practical. One day you're chasing your dreams, and the next you're scheduling grocery runs and calling it an adventure. For the Sigma female, the thought of looking back on her life and realizing she played it safe is unbearable. She'd rather crash and burn doing something extraordinary than coast along in a life that feels like it was copied and pasted from someone else's playbook. The fear of mediocrity also fuels her drive. It's what keeps her learning, exploring, and refusing to settle for good enough. But it's a double-edged sword. This constant push for more can leave her exhausted, questioning whether she's doing enough or just spinning her wheels, and heaven forbid someone suggests she relax or enjoy the simple things. To her, that sounds suspiciously like an invitation to mediocrity, which might explain why she side-eyes the phrase work-life balance. In truth, this fear isn't about rejecting stability or simplicity. It's about rejecting a life where she isn't fully alive, fully engaged, or fully herself. Mediocrity to her is the death of individuality, and if there's one thing a Sigma female refuses to do, it's lose what makes her unique. Number 3, the wrong kind of attention. The wrong kind of attention is a Sigma female's personal nightmare, and the world seems determined to hand it to her on a silver platter. It's not that she dislikes attention entirely. When it's on her terms, she can own a room without breaking a sweat. But unsolicited, clingy, or over-the-top attention, that's a one-way ticket to her disappearing faster than a Wi-Fi signal during a storm. The problem is her enigmatic nature acts like a magnet. People are drawn to her mystery, her quiet confidence, and the way she moves through life like she knows something the rest of us don't. But instead of appreciating her from a respectful distance, some folks feel the need to latch on, or worse, try to fix her. Oh, you think she needs saving because she's not clinging to a crowd? Please, she's saving herself from the energy drain of shallow interactions. This fear of the wrong kind of attention isn't just about avoiding nosy or needy people. It's about preserving her peace. Sigma females treasure their mental space like it's beachfront property, and they won't let just anyone set up camp. When someone starts poking too much, pushing for validation, or trying to uncover every detail about her, it feels less like connection and more like invasion. And don't get her started on performative attention, the kind that's loud, dramatic, and more about the person giving it than the one receiving it. Compliments are nice, sure, but if it's wrapped in a package of "look how much I admire you," she's already planning her exit. For a Sigma female, attention is only welcome when it's genuine, balanced, and doesn't come with strings attached. Anything less, and she's out faster than you can say emotional boundaries. Number 4, being trapped in a role. Being trapped in a role is the kind of fear that keeps a Sigma female up at night. To her, roles are like boxes, and boxes are for shipping, not living. Whether it's being labeled as the reliable one, the smart one, or any other title society loves to slap on people, the idea of being stuck in one persona forever feels like a slow suffocation. It's not just about hating labels, it's about what they represent, limits. Sigma females thrive on freedom, and freedom means having the space to evolve, experiment, and even contradict themselves. Today, she might be the quiet strategist working behind the scenes. Tomorrow, she might be running the whole show. But if people decide she has to stay in one role, whether in a job, a relationship, or even within her family, it's like clipping the wings of a bird and asking why it's not soaring anymore. What's worse, these roles often come with expectations that feel like invisible chains. Suddenly, she's not allowed to have bad days because she's the strong one, or she's expected to always have the answers because she's the smart one. The pressure to live up to a role she didn't even ask for is enough to make her consider faking her own disappearance. This fear doesn't mean she's against responsibility or commitment. She just doesn't want to be defined by them. The beauty of a Sigma female lies in her unpredictability. She's a mix of contradictions that somehow make perfect sense. Force her into a single role, and you're not just limiting her, you're missing out on the complexity that makes her who she is. The truth is, Sigma females don't fear roles because they can't handle them. They fear them because they've got too much to offer to ever be just one thing. Number 5, losing control over their lives. Control is sacred to a Sigma female, and not in a power-hungry way. It's about maintaining the balance of her carefully crafted world. To her, losing control over her life feels like being forced into a chaotic game where someone else holds the rulebook. Whether it's her time, her choices, or even how she's perceived, control isn't just a preference, it's her safety net. Sigma females are deeply independent, and their lives are often a reflection of meticulous planning and intentional decisions. They've worked hard to create an existence that aligns with their values, priorities, and pace. So when something or someone threatens to disrupt that, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a full-blown existential crisis. Imagine someone trying to hijack her schedule or dictate her next move. Yeah, not happening. This fear runs deeper than just hating a packed calendar or unsolicited advice. It's about autonomy. When a Sigma feels she's losing control, it's as if her identity is slipping away. Suddenly, she's at the mercy of other people's agendas, and that's a situation she'll fight tooth and nail to avoid. This is why she often steers clear of environments or relationships that demand too much compromise. What makes this fear even more intense is how fiercely she protects her sense of self. Control isn't just about avoiding chaos, it's about preserving her individuality. If she lets someone else take the reins, she risks being molded into something she's not. And for a Sigma, that's a fate worse than failure. Ultimately, losing control isn't about being inflexible or resistant to change. It's about ensuring that her life remains authentically hers. After all, if she's not steering the ship, who's to say it won't crash into everything she's worked so hard to build? Number 6. Being seen as ordinary. Miladies, being seen as ordinary is the ultimate insult to a Sigma female. The mere thought of being lumped into the just like everyone else category sends her into a quiet internal panic. Her individuality isn't just a quirk, it's the essence of who she is. Take that away, and it feels like stripping her of everything that makes her stand out. It's not vanity, it's identity. Sigma females thrive on being the outliers, the ones who march to their own beat and refuse to conform just for the sake of fitting in. To her, the world is already full of cookie-cutter personalities, people following trends just to belong. The idea of being mistaken for one of them, that's enough to make her reevaluate every choice she's ever made. This fear of ordinariness drives a lot of her decisions. She doesn't go for the obvious paths in life. She takes the back roads, the unbeaten trails, and sometimes she creates her own. Whether it's in her career, her style, or her relationships, there's always a hint of the unconventional. If something feels too typical, too predictable, it automatically loses its appeal. But here's the twist. She's not trying to stand out just for the sake of it. She's not one to scream, "Look at me," from the rooftops. Instead, her uniqueness is quiet, understated, and deeply personal. She doesn't need external validation. It's about knowing deep down that she's living a life that's truly her own. Being seen as ordinary would mean losing the spark that makes her who she is. And for a Sigma female, that's not just unsettling, it's unbearable. Because in a world obsessed with blending in, she's built her identity around being unapologetically herself. Number 7. Losing their mental edge. For a Sigma female, her mental edge isn't just a tool, it's her fortress. Her sharpness is what sets her apart, allows her to navigate the world with precision, and keeps her one step ahead in a game she didn't necessarily ask to play. Losing that edge, whether from burnout, complacency, or life throwing her an unexpected curveball, is more than just unsettling. It's terrifying. Her intellect is often her go-to resource, the thing she leans on when everything else feels uncertain. It's how she analyzes situations, anticipates outcomes, and stays in control. Without it, she feels vulnerable, like a knight without armor in the middle of battle. And let's face it, Sigma females don't do vulnerable unless it's on their terms, and even then, it's rare. The fear of losing her mental sharpness doesn't come from arrogance, but from self-awareness. She knows her mind is one of her greatest assets, and she treats it with the same care others might reserve for prized possessions. But the thought of being outsmarted or outmaneuvered, that's not just humbling, it's horrifying. It's the kind of thing that keeps her up at night, replaying conversations in her head and double-checking her moves. This fear also makes her guard against stagnation. She's constantly learning, adapting, and challenging herself to stay sharp. She knows complacency is the first step toward losing what she values most. And if she ever senses that burnout is creeping in, she'll retreat, recalibrate, and come back even stronger. For a Sigma female, her mind is her superpower. Losing that would feel like losing herself, a reality she's determined to avoid at all costs. Because without her mental edge, how could she continue to carve out her unique space in the world? Number 8. Outgrowing their closest connections. Ladies, outgrowing the closest people in their lives is a haunting thought for a Sigma female. It's not that she believes she's better than them or that she doesn't value the deep connections she's built. It's more about the fear that as she grows, she'll drift away from the very people who once understood her. Her growth isn't just about learning new things or advancing in her career. It's about evolving into someone who sometimes feels like a different version of herself. And the idea that the people she holds most dear won't be able to keep up with that evolution feels like a quiet kind of loss, one she isn't sure she can avoid. She's fiercely loyal to the bonds she shares, but as she becomes more self-aware, more attuned to what she truly wants from life, There's this underlying worry that her growth might create a distance that can't be bridged. It's not arrogance or a feeling of superiority, it's the recognition that her path is unique, and that means some relationships might no longer serve her in the same way they once did. The thought of losing these connections, or worse, seeing them become strained because of her personal growth, is unsettling. It's a fear of isolation, really. Sigma females are independent by nature, but that doesn't mean they don't crave meaningful connections. The idea that the more they evolve, the more they might outgrow those they care about is a bittersweet dilemma. They've worked so hard to cultivate relationships that align with their values and needs, and the thought of those connections weakening over time is deeply unsettling. At the core of this fear is the struggle between self-improvement and maintaining the bonds that make them feel grounded. For a Sigma female, the fear isn't that she'll leave everyone behind. It's that she'll have to choose between growing into her true self and holding on to the people who've been part of her journey. And that's a choice no one ever wants to make. Number 9. Revealing their weaknesses. Revealing weaknesses is a Sigma female's version of walking into a battlefield unarmed. It's not that she's in denial about her flaws, oh, she's plenty self-aware, but letting those imperfections show feels like peeling off the very armor that protects her from a world that often misunderstands her. Weaknesses aren't just vulnerabilities. To her, they're potential invitations for judgment, or even worse, pity. The fear isn't about appearing perfect. She knows perfection is a myth. It's about maintaining control over how she's perceived. Sigma females are fiercely independent, and they loathe the idea of someone underestimating their strength because they dared to show a crack in their armor. The thought of hearing, "Oh, poor you," or seeing someone's condescending sympathy face is enough to make her stomach turn. What makes this even trickier is that Sigma females don't trust just anyone with their softer sides. Vulnerability for them is sacred ground, something they reserve for the rare few who've earned it. If they let someone in, it's a massive deal, and any sign of exploitation or misunderstanding will have them shutting that door faster than you can say, "I didn't mean it like that." This fear doesn't mean they're cold or emotionless, quite the opposite. They feel deeply, but they've learned the hard way that not everyone knows how to handle that kind of depth. So they wear their strength like a shield, deflecting attention away from the parts of themselves that they're still learning to embrace. For a Sigma female, revealing a weakness isn't just about the risk of being judged. It's about the fear of being seen as anything less than the strong, capable individual she is. And if the world can't handle that complexity, well, that's on the world, not her. Number 10, the void of meaning. For a Sigma female, a life without meaning is a fate worse than failure. The idea of waking up day after day, going through the motions without a sense of purpose, is enough to send a chill down her spine. She's driven by the need for her actions, her relationships, and her pursuits to feel deeply significant, like they're leading her somewhere, building towards something greater. A Sigma doesn't just want to exist, she wants to leave a mark, whether through her career, her creative endeavors, or the way she impacts the world around her. Without meaning, everything feels hollow. She thrives on depth, on knowing that what she does matters, not just to her, but to the world or the people she cares about. It's not about accolades or external validation. It's about the internal satisfaction of knowing she's living in alignment with her values, that her actions are creating a ripple effect no matter how small. If that sense of purpose disappears, it's like being adrift in an ocean with no land in sight, disorienting, suffocating, and ultimately soul-crushing. The thought of drifting through life without direction is more than just unsettling. It's a true nightmare. The possibility of becoming numb to the things that once brought her joy or feeling disconnected from her own aspirations is a fear that keeps her up at night. Sigma females are wired to push boundaries, challenge norms, and make things happen. So when they even consider a life where those things are absent, it feels like losing a part of themselves. This fear isn't about striving for success. It's about the anxiety of not having anything to strive for at all. The void of meaning isn't just empty space. It's the absence of the very essence that makes life worth living. For a Sigma female, a meaningful life isn't just a goal. It's the foundation of her existence. Without it, nothing else matters. At the end of the day, Sigma females are complex beings who walk a fine line between embracing their independence and navigating the fears that come with it. Their strength lies in their unwavering self-reliance, but that same strength often brings burdens, whether it's the fear of losing their mental edge, revealing vulnerabilities, or outgrowing the people they care about. They crave freedom, but with success and growth comes the daunting responsibility of meeting ever-increasing expectations. It's a paradox. The more they evolve, the more they risk feeling isolated. But here's the thing. While these fears may haunt them, they don't define them. A Sigma female will always find a way to balance the weight of her ambitions with the quiet need for connection. She may fear being trapped by her own success or the loneliness that comes with growth, but in the end, it's that very self-awareness that keeps her grounded. It's what allows her to continue evolving while holding on to the parts of herself that matter most. She is a paradox, yes, but she is also a force of nature. She will fear, she will struggle, but she will never stop moving forward. For a Sigma female, the greatest fear isn't that she won't overcome these challenges, it's that she'll stop challenging herself altogether. And that, more than anything, is the true nature of her strength, the constant push to rise, even when the fears feel overwhelming. After all, it's in the shadows of her doubts that she finds the courage to shine the brightest. If this resonates with you, if you've ever felt the weight of these truths, or the fear of a life without meaning, then don't let this moment slip by. Hit that subscribe button and join a community of like-minded individuals who understand the power of living with purpose and embracing the unique journey that only a Sigma can walk. We dive deep, we challenge norms, and we explore the extraordinary together. So go ahead, send your curiosity to this channel. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's keep the conversation going and make your journey one that's as meaningful as it is bold. Thanks for watching, Jules. See you in the next video. Bye for now and stay blessed.